like to welcome everyone to our London City Council special meeting for the purpose of reading Ordinance 11022. Ask you to please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silent reflection. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk, could you please take our roll call?
Eads.
Here.
Peters.
Here.
Robinson.
Here.
Hayes.
Present.
Hitt. Stahl.
Here.
Smith.
Okay, we do have a quorum. However, we are missing two of our members. Okay. All right. On to our audience concerns. We have two of them this evening. So if you could please come to the podium, state your name, address, and you have 5 minutes, please. I have Brent McDanick. Okay, McDaniels. Oh, okay.
Just here to let you know that I think increasing the taxes is just another burden on a lot of people around here. I believe that still enough of our money as it is.
I can't hear her.
That's all I have to say.
Can you speak up, sir?
I said I do believe that you're stealing enough of our hard-earned money as it is, and I think increasing the taxes is a bunch of BS. And that's it. I won't need the 5 minutes. That's all I got to say.
All right, thank you. All right, next we have Andrea Dillon. Dillian.
Can I have his rest of 5 minutes?
All right, please state your name, address, and you have 5 minutes.
My name is Andrea Dillion. I live at 66 East 5th Street. First, I'd like to speak about the City of London's conceptual assessment for the Police Building and Community Center dated October 19th, 2021. I have it here. This is what's been conducted for this project. I don't know if you all have it, but if you turn to page 26, I have them all earmarked. On page 26, it says, additionally, site layouts should also be based on the analysis of soil conditions and utilities. Subsurface investigations were not prepared for either site. Other impacting factors may surface as the dialogue continues. Bottom, please note that any concept plan should only be considered as initial approach or option. We are intentionally not attempting to resolve all issues. Otherwise, we would need to pursue full scope design phase. The purpose is to facilitate discussion in order to determine feasibility. Once a decision is made to proceed with a particular approach, refinements would occur with the most detailed design work of subsequent development phases. Then we go to page 42. Site development costs assume that there are no significant utility, toxic materials, surface or soil-bearing capacity problems. A geotechnical study and a land survey have not been prepared for the site for this report. These studies should be accomplished before establishing a final budget and moving forward with this project. It also says many of the rooms or areas indicated in this report could be smaller or larger or for less cost or greater cost. We have not initiated into that phase yet. This evaluation is subject to revision due to the greater detail that would be provided by subsequent design and construction document work. It is also subject to revision as time passes and conditions change. This is your own study that was done. If you go to page 43, under the police cost estimate, the demolition says does not include contamination or hazardous materials. So right there, we know we do not have a good cost analysis as we know there's asbestos. If we go to page 45, the contingency funds for this are only $250,000. Once they get in there and have to remediate asbestos and clear all that out, we're way beyond $250,000. If you go to page 46, the community center, also on demolition, it says, does not include contaminated or hazardous materials. The cost was $303,000 with a contingency of another $250,000. We all know that's why we're not redoing the rec center now. So that's not included in this cost study. This was the cost study we paid for. The final cost for this was, for just the community center, was $14,443, okay? Now, this is going to be a 59,630 square foot facility for $14,443,000 with no pool. The police department is $10 million. So there we've got the 25. I have a friend who's he works for the Prairie Township, he's a trustee. He provided me with this. Prairie Township they have their nice facility, the community center on West Broad Street. They did it in 2015. I'm sorry? Yeah, David. It's a 38,151 square foot facility. It was built in 2015 with a pool for $9 million. They budgeted at $8 million and it ran over $1 million. This is their cost assessment that they did. They did, and I'll be happy to share this with you. First of all, they did a feasibility study timeline and list of meeting dates. 24 meetings over a year and a half with the community, with community members, with businesses. They did studies, they did videos, everything with the community and everyone. 24 meetings in a year and a half. Then, if I go back here, part of theirs was a draft opinion of the estimated expenses of running and building this. They've got the salaries, they've got part-time wages, part-time benefits, the recreation director, training, printing and distribution of information, office supplies, equipment, program supplies, office supplies, utilities and telecommunications. I mean, it goes on and on. They did all this before they put it on a vote or even put it up for the people to vote on and talk about. Then they did opinion of estimated revenues, telling everybody how much they'd take in. And they did this over a period of time. Then finally, the most important part that hasn't still been done, they did a operating Proforma analysis. So as part of the due diligence process with the township, may I continue?
Yes, you may.
We have created an operating Proforma that aims to project or forecast the ongoing operating revenues and expenses of the proposed community center so that we can better understand the township's future obligations, both in terms of debt service, on the issuance of debt to fund the project, and the estimated annual contributions for the operation of the community center. It's this much. And they detail everything. We've done a $14,000 study, I think, and it doesn't cover or encompass all of it. It doesn't even come close. That's what I have to say about that.
All right. And before you sit, I just want to clarify, and what is your profession?
I'm a realtor.
You're a realtor, so you're
Yes.
pretty well versed on a lot of the things that you're speaking about there
Correct.
that need to be done.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I do recognize you, sir. If you come to because on the recordings, they said they can't hear the audience at all. So if you could just please come to the
I'll
mic.
fill out a form. I forgot to do that. I do apologize.
Okay.
But I'm Stephen Miller from 225 Jenkinson Avenue.
Okay.
So I ran some of the numbers that were provided by Mr. Castle. And if his estimates are correct, the numbers do work out. I believe I shared some of the numbers with Mr. Eads. Well, Michael did. So, but there's a lot of what ifs, and one of the, this fine lady brought up a lot of these what ifs that are occurring. Obviously, with an infrastructure project, especially when the government does infrastructure projects, there's a lot of estimation, and it seems like we're still estimating. But the numbers did work out. So, but the main problem that I have with this project is we are combining an infrastructure project with a funding project for ongoing operations. And there are a lot of, she's brought up a lot of issues with the infrastructure part of this. And one of the good things is that during the last meeting, you guys did separate that to a certain degree with your amendment, in that the fire department can't take more than half of the money. But I think that it would be very good to separate these on the ballot. You have one infrastructure and one ongoing funding for the fire department. And I believe the fire department is about $800,000 in the red if, for the next year is that true? That's a question for anybody.
And say that would be a good question for Mrs. Combs there.
With us funding, then we're pushing them the 400,000 that they just passed, and then we'll do it again when we get the money, July.
Okay.
So
So
it'll be 800,000.
is that, another question that I would have is do you expect it to be, continually to be about $800,000 a year deficit for the fire department?
Hopefully with the growth of the community and the revenues from the squad runs, yes.
Okay. And, I mean, that percentage would go up together. I suppose there would be growth, and yet there would be increased amounts of wages and that kind of stuff. And so we don't expect the fire department to fully need the $1.15 million that we are allocating for them. That's a good estimate to say? Okay. And so I would just ask that if this is going to go to the voters, that it would go in two separate lines where the people can vote on one, or the people can vote on another one, on the infrastructure project or on the spending for the fire department. The fire department does need the money, there's no question about that. And, it'd be nice to have a new rec center and a new police station, there's no question about that. But I think the voters need to be trusted to make the right decision in having two lines there that they can vote for one versus the other. And I do take umbrage to going into debt to pay for ongoing spending for the fire department. We wouldn't necessarily be going into debt for that, but it's, to borrow $25 million is to pay for the infrastructure, but then we would be raising the taxes to help pay that off. And I actually one of the other things I thought about was that we most likely are, there's going to be budget overruns. And a wild, crazy idea, I thought, well, what if we raise the taxes even more to pay for those overruns? That, obviously, London, people aren't gonna like that. Anyway, but that's all I have to say. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Fill out.
Yeah, I've added your name here. I have a form, I just filled it in here. All right. Thank both of you, all of you for your comments, and, those are some of the sentiments, too, that I expressed in our last meeting. To combine those together, I don't think that that's a good idea to combine those together. I think that we should be 100% transparent and to separate those on the ballot to give the community a chance to vote for each one separately. And without doubt, we do need a new police department, and it would be absolutely fabulous for a new recreation center. It would add to our community, add a nice facility, even nicer facility for families to come to, and hopefully even attract new people, attract employees for the police department as well as if it's voted on separately for the fire department, and it gives the community a chance to vote for that, not pinning that to the other two projects which were included in the study. So I do agree that all of those should be separated, and the community should have a chance to vote on those separately. I thank you for all that information that you brought. I, too, believe that we should discuss this a little further, talk about the things that may come up, that are possible to come up. Even when you build a house or you purchase a house or you rehab a house, you have a budget, and 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be under the budget that you set for that, because you have all those unforeseen contingencies that might pop up during those projects. You talk about the soil samples and just different things like that, abating asbestos, just lots of different things. Similarly to what we ran into with the water plant. And, we have that there, and there was just some things that were, went through, I feel, a little quicker than they should have. And then we ran into some things that we didn't expect at all. So I would hope that we would put more time and effort into this project because it is a very large dollar amount. And I think it would be our due diligence to do everything that we can to bring the information to the community, give the community plenty of chances to come out and to talk about it and to discuss it. Like you showed us from the other community, that was a lot of discussion that they had over a year. And they ended up spending $9 million to build their nice facility with the swimming pool in their community. And that was only $9 million, and they discussed that over a year. Yes. If you could come to because we may not be able to hear you. Thank you.
And the township trustee I spoke to said that because they're charging a membership fee,
Okay.
both for members and outside members, it's paying for, just those memberships are paying 80%
Wow.
of the cost of the facility. And I also wonder, have we thought creatively maybe about asking for contributions from community, like the banks, Coughlin, Stanley, all these people that could do an in-kind contribution to maybe offset some of the costs. I know they're not going to foot $25 million, but we have a lot more infrastructure needs that have not even been touched.
Right.
And this is a lot of money that I don't think's been studied enough.
Thank you again. All right. Now we move on to our old business, one for the second reading. Ordinance 11022, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved. Second.
All right. Clerk, please read the ordinance.
Ordinance 11022, sponsored by Rich Hayes. An ordinance to increase the municipal income tax by 0.5% per annum for a continuing period of time for the purposes of providing funds to pay costs of acquiring, constructing, furnishing, equipping, improving, maintaining, and preparing municipal recreational facilities, municipal fire department facilities, and municipal police department facilities owned by the City of London, to pay general operating expenses related to municipal recreational facilities of the fire department and of the police department, and to pay any expenses and debt service charges for debt incurred in connection therewith, of which increase not more than 0.25% per annum shall be used for the purposes of providing funds to pay costs of acquiring, constructing, furnishing, equipping, improving, maintaining, and repairing municipal fire department facilities, to pay general operating expenses of the fire department, and to pay any expenses and debt service charges for debt incurred in connection therewith, authorizing the question of such increase to be placed on the ballot at the election to be held on May 3rd, 2022, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. A lot of good questions brought up tonight, a lot of good information. And that's why we're having this second reading on this. We're not jumping into a rush decision on this. We may even have, I know we've got another meeting scheduled next week. Is that correct, on Tuesday?
February 1st.
Yeah, Tuesday, I believe it is. So we have another meeting scheduled. Mr. Castle, or Your Honor, would you have anything you'd want to add to this?
I will say that some of the issues that were addressed, Prairie Township went from nothing to having something. We have a recreation department, we have a recreation facility, so a lot of those items that she says we haven't budgeted, we've already got budgeted. It's been budgeted for years.
Not for this project, though.
You're replacing one project with another. The only thing you're doing is adding additional staffing.
Your own study said that there was more that needed to be done before. This should even be brought for budget or to the people. Your own.
Can you stand to the mic, please? Because you have good comments, and we want to make sure everyone can hear them. Thank you.
The study you paid for indicates that more needs to be done before, it's right here. It's on page, you paid for this. I would think you'd listen to the people that you paid to do this. It's on page, sorry, lost my page. Here. You're on page 42. Site development costs assume there are no significant utility, toxic materials, subsurface, or soil-bearing capacity problems. A geotechnical study and a land survey have not been prepared for the site for this report. These studies must be accomplished before establishing a final budget and moving forward with the project. That's your study. This evaluation is subject to revision due to the greater detail that would need to be provided by subsequent design and construction document works. It is also subject to revision as time passes and conditions change. I mean, that's your study. It's not existing. We don't have that.
That's true.
Thank you. Rex, are you finished?
Yep, I am again.
Okay, Mr. Norman?
I just
Yeah.
want to clarify. So I think I get what you're saying. And I get what you're saying, but I think you're both kind of mixed in the middle. What Rex is saying is, he's talking about the staffing issues. We already have a staff. Basically, all we're going to do with that staff is we're going to move it into a new building, correct?
100%.
So we already have a budget set for the staffing issues that you said earlier, where they, where you.
There's been no feasibility study to estimate what the expenses and revenue will be for that new building. It's a bigger building.
The revenues and the tax increase. We're not going to charge people. They're paying for the building. We're not going to charge people.
You haven't even done the expenses to determine what the actual expenses will be for the building. for
We've
staff.
got it. We've got it now. The only thing we're going to have to do.
Have you guys seen it? I haven't seen it.
On page 44,
Page 44?
page 44.
When you say that
And what is that,
80%,
44?
is that 80% of the operating costs or 80% of the costs?
What page did you say that was?
He said 44?
44?
Now, is that the expense report,
And
employees
again,
and
it
salaries?
doesn't talk about, the demolition does not include contaminated or hazardous materials. And this does not talk about, all this is the building itself.
We just had an asbestos study done on the building 2 weeks ago because we knew this was going to be addressed. And to my surprise and to pretty much everybody's surprise, the school had done a lot of mediation work in getting asbestos removed from there. We didn't know about it. The study was done. We had a projected cost, I believe, about $27,000 to take out the rest of the asbestos out of that whole building. So.
This has hard costs and soft costs. Nowhere on there does it say anything about salaries. Nowhere on there does it
That
say.
is in our current budget, ma'am. All we're adding is an additional person to man the building,
They did
the
a
hours that
whole
we talked about.
64
They had
page
no
study.
people. They had no people.
I know, but you've not
We've
even
got
done what
people.
your
Okay.
own
All right.
people that you paid for told you still needs, there's more stuff that needs to be done. Hasn't been conducted.
Thank you. All right, I think that Chief Nichols was next, and then, yes, Chief, okay. Brenda, and if you come to the microphone so we can hear you, please. They can't hear people in the recordings.
My name is Brenda Russell. I live at 274 East High Street, London, Ohio. And I believe the community center we're talking about and what Prairie has are two different things. Prairie doesn't use theirs for their park and recs, do they?
Yeah.
Well, but they've got, the whole first floor is exercise equipment. The whole first floor, the swimming pool, it's exercise equipment. And I don't know if their city program, rec program is ran out of there.
Yeah.
No, I'm just asking the
Yeah.
question.
I
But
talked
I
to
see
them.
where their staffing would need, because they've got, the whole first floor is exercise, like a gym, like the gyms. That's what the whole first floor at Perry's is, and they got a gym in there. Because I'm a member of it, and they do pickleball. They have rooms, people rent out rooms and do aerobics and all that, that's rented out. But do they run their basketball programs? Their
They
city
run
programs?
some programs, I don't know if all of them. They,
Well, I think it's the two different centers. I mean, if you go look at it, it looks like it's what we're talking about building and what they've got over there. I don't think it's the same thing.
I'll make you a copy.
No, I've been over there and I just think think that, one thing and what we're talking about is kind of different. Although they're both community centers, they're different kinds, because I've been over there, and it looks like it's exercise, so they sell memberships. If you live there, it's a cheaper rate. I don't know if we'd be selling memberships, but most of ours will be used for, at no cost, for our parking rents and our senior citizens and programs that are ran at the city or people could run individually. Is that what it's supposed to be? Is that?
Well, I think what we're looking at here is the actual physical
That's what I'm
facility,
talking about, yeah.
not the use of the facility.
Well, the use of theirs is like, there's a room probably bigger than this, that's just all exercise equipment.
Right, I'm just simply
Yeah,
saying,
we're
they've not done the studies, they did so, they put a year and a half into before they even started the project.
Well, but I just do believe they're two different community, types of community centers. I think they are two different types.
Meetings, and they have, what, a day?
So we gotta make sure that we're, we pit one against the other, but they're compatible. I think it's just two different kinds of community.
Okay, so what we're looking at here is we're looking at the actual building of a facility, not necessarily the use of the facility. So,
And I-
I mean, yeah, we would have to talk about both of those. I mean, as we're presenting this, I think building the facility, we also need to get out there what we want to use the facility for
exactly.
as well.
Exactly.
So, I mean,
Exactly.
our
And-
Parks and Rec, I don't know how many people in here have been over there, but it's in dire need.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, right now we had 262 kids, and out of those 262, I would guess half of them are London citizens. Everyone else is from outside. So that's the view of our outside communities coming into our buildings and looking at what we present. And the program outweighs the view of the building. I understand what you're saying. I mean, I get that it's expensive, but for our community, we want to make sure that we present top-notch facilities, and how can we get that accomplished? That's the question.
And I think that there is no question whatsoever that we need a new community center. But the common theme that I keep hearing is that there needs to be more discussion on this before we make any type of decision on anything. I don't think anyone is arguing that we don't need the facility. I don't think that anyone is arguing that at all. It is the common theme is we need to discuss this. We need to talk about this. This is a project that belongs to the community. The community worked hard to create those dollars to put into that budget, and they need to have every single say that they can before any types of decisions are made on this. And that's the common theme that I keep hearing from the community. Yes.
And I understand about wanting to present our best foot forward for community. I sell houses. Of course, a community center would bring in more people for me, but we can't even provide them with good infrastructure. We can't give them a house that doesn't flood. We can't give them good water. So I know Pat disagrees with me, but it's a common theme with buyers when they get their property disclosure that the seller has to fill out, and it says that their house will flood and that they've had all kinds of work done. People don't want to come here because of that. And we have bad water, and everybody knows it.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Hayes?
Seems like there's a lot of problems. This is going to be a one-time build. I'm 77. Time this is built, I'm going to be probably 80. I don't foresee them building another one in 60, 70, 80 years from now, maybe. I don't know. But it's going to be a one-time shot. Police department's going to be a one-time shot. We've already got the room in there for expansion, which we're going to need. It's already built in. It's a lot of money. I agree. But anything that you buy, anything that you do right now, with the economy the way we are right now, it's going to cost money. It's like groceries. A loaf of bread, say, is $1, and now it's up to $3. Well, because it's $3, you can't say, or any groceries, you can't say, I'm not going to eat, I'm just going to starve. You can't do that. You have to have groceries. Same thing with water and electricity. You got to pay for those things. And those are things that you need. I understand that. You got to have that to live through every day. We need a new police department. That building down there is falling apart. I'd be surprised if that building doesn't cave in one of these days. It's in that bad shape. And I know people don't want to hear this, but when the prisoners make fun of your jail when you're getting out of the cruisers and you're arresting them for a crime and they make fun of you, they make fun of your building, you know, that may seem like a small thing to some person, to some people, but to me, you know, that's not a small thing. I was a police officer. I started out in a low log cabin, and then they finally got a nice building. Had holding cells, it had everything in it. And you got to have the equipment, you got to have the room, you got to have things that you got to have. You have to have them. It costs money. The one thing I'm proud of, though, is we're not jumping the gun and just saying we're going to do this. We're going to put it before the people and let the people decide. That's a fair way to do it. And they may turn it down. I don't know. I don't know how it'll go. But got to have a police department, that's for sure. Got to have that. We need a rec center. Our schools, our first grade, kindergarten, they're busting out the seams right now with the kids. And then 2-3 years from now, they're going to be at that place where they're going to need the center. So, and I know there's a lot of cost involved with this, and kind of had my say there. Anybody have anything you'd like to add to it?
Mr.
I'm sure
President.
there's probably some more questions out here.
Okay.
And then, did the chief want to say something?
Next, we're actually going to
Okay.
Mr. Eads here, Councilman Eads.
Fellow council members, I think allowing the public to speak when it matters is the right thing to do. I'm very happy to see this many people in the audience tonight. Although I think if the meeting notice would have been published on the city website, we might have had more people. I'm glad there's going to be a third meeting and that the notice of the meeting is going to be published in the Messenger. I was told today that the Messenger did post an article. It did mention tonight's meeting, but it hasn't been published. It's just on their Facebook page or website, one or the other. Hopefully the city will get up on our city website notice of this meeting to take place on February 1st. There will be a third meeting, from what I understand, for the right thing to do, but also there wouldn't be enough people to try to overturn and suspend the rules tonight. And I'm glad that's not going to happen tonight. I still have my doubts that this income tax can raise enough money to pay for construction cost. And I think projecting future increases is a slippery slope. I'm not aware of any significant job increases or housing starts that are coming to the city soon. So any plans to build should be something the city can afford to pay based on what this income tax will raise in the immediate near future, not projecting down the road because we don't know if that's going to happen. But we are asking the people to fund an idea at this point because there really are no concrete plans. We have the assessment, but that is just the tip of the iceberg. So we're asking the voters of London to fund an idea. And I don't know how that's going to go, but it's a leap of faith to fund an idea, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, gentleman here with the blue shirt, if you please step to the mic and state your name and address. Thank you.
My name's Rob Newman. I live at 22 Richmond Avenue. Real quickly, I worked 38 years with the city of Columbus issuing all their debt and did all their capital budget. That was my job, my profession for 38 years. So I'm well versed in all the issuance of debt service. Just trying to educate myself on this. I've been out of the country a little bit, so just got a couple of quick questions. What will be the term of the bond issuance? And then there's projections. It's a 30-year bond? Okay. So we're looking $25 million preliminary budget. So by the time it's over with, you could be looking at potentially a $30 million facility. So you're looking at $1 million of debt service a year in the area. And just to educate myself, how much will the income tax increase raise to cover this debt service? $2.3 million a year, and that's for the construction of it, or is that for total?
You have to cover the debt service
Right.
first, and then the remainder will go to
Okay. I was associated a little bit when City Columbus, when Prairie Township issued their debt and started building that facilities. The City of Columbus was actively involved because it went against our millage for the City of Columbus, and that's kind of a technical type of thing. But we were involved, and I was loosely involved with the Prairie Township financing of it from that aspect from the City of Columbus. So I just want to hear, a little bit more. I'm assuming I filed all the Board of Elections for the City Council when City of Columbus went to the ballot. So I know there's a period of time that you have to target for it to be on the ballot. And if I recall correctly, I've been retired for about a year now. Is it 75 days to hit?
90.
90 days? Okay. So 90 days, so you're looking can you just explain what your process will be? You said you're going to have another third meeting, and when the file date would have to be, when is the file date?
February 2nd.
February 2nd. So when is your next meeting on this?
February 1st.
And you expect to have a vote that night?
Yes.
And then you would file it then? Okay. I'm just trying to get all my information, and I appreciate the time and to address City Council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next, we had Chief Eads no, actually, you were next. Stephen Miller, and then Chief.
Nickel.
No, actually, well, he gave his time. Sorry about that, Nickel, Chief Nichols. I'm thinking fire, sorry.
I apologize for coming back with, but I just have one more question. Because I ran my numbers off of 1.7%. How sure are we that we can get 1.7% loan? Because if we go up higher, obviously the numbers stop working. You got about $77,000 to work with per year.
We utilize a loan specialist who whenever we did the traffic lights, he went out and sought rates from bond issuers for us. I think he said he sent out to like 47 different institutions. The rates he came back were lower than what he projected.
Okay.
So, and with our bond rating, we're an A1.
A1.
Which is pretty good. So with our rating, he doesn't feel too pessimistic about it. He just feels pretty optimistic, but, the government could raise the rates and that's going to affect it. I realize that one of the reasons why you want to, try to get things moving, the longer you wait, it looks like possibly rates are going to go back up higher. I don't know.
They should raise the rates, but that's,
it's not a lot.
it's not going to be.
Quarter percent.
Yeah, it could be a quarter.
Yeah, it's going nothing huge.
I do have to point out also, and we know what the inflation rate is, right? It's about 12% this year so far, 12 to 16. And if we borrow, all this money, we're actually if we borrow it at 1.7, we're going to be below the average inflation rate for the last 50 years. So technically, we would be making money if you project us out. We really should borrow, if it's at 1.7, we should borrow as much money as we can.
Yeah.
But I know we can't do that. it's illegal to do that. Don't do that. But we should be actually borrowing as much money as we can right now. I mean, that's what Netflix is doing to try and run their operation, all that kind of stuff. But we would be coming out ahead at a 1.7, considering the inflation rate, considering the average inflation rate. And so it's not as like ad hoc as you might think it is. So it's, but I would be, just to give a little bit more impetus to say, you know, that this isn't a terrible idea, you know, when it comes to budgeting. It's actually a good idea if we want these things. Mm-hmm. It's a good deal at 1.7. It's a really good deal. There were a couple questions about like asbestos and the cost analysis with that. I wondered if maybe one of you guys could explain that to the public a little bit.
Yeah, he just touched on that.
Okay.
We had a firm come in and do an asbestos study in the complex to see exactly where asbestos is located, how much is in there. To his amazement, to our amazement, he really didn't find that much asbestos. There is asbestos in the building, but it was far less than what he anticipated.
Was that in the police department also? Or did they just do the?
No, we only did this one over here because it's going to have to be demolished.
Okay. So the police department's going to be like rehabbed, and then the
Police will sell the building.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay,
you want,
okay.
and the cost to mediate that was like less than $30,000.
Okay.
So it's extremely low. I figured it'd be in the hundreds.
Right.
Because I was anticipating a lot more asbestos in there. But one of the biggest, and that's why I thought it was on the walls, because one of the biggest contributors to asbestos was the ceiling in that gym, which the school had completely removed.
Okay.
So they did a good job of going in and taking care of most of the asbestos in there.
Okay. I did find in my house, I'm pre-asbestos, so I lucked out there too.
You got horsehair.
Yeah, I got horsehair. Yeah. Yeah. So that's great. But okay, and then I think that's all I got. Oh yeah, I did find that you had a little bit of a buffer. It was about $77,000. So even if the fire department takes all half of their money.
Well, let me explain that.
Yes.
The way this is, we have to cover the debt service first.
Okay.
So that's why they changed the legislation that the fire department could get up to half.
Okay. All right. So you've got actually a bigger buffer than what I even thought. Because I was like, well, you got about a 7.5% buffer.
You're about right. You're about right. You're about right.
But then if the fire department only takes $80,000, you're really pushing that up to about a 25% buffer per year. If the fire department only takes their $800,000. I'm sorry.
Well, my projection is they'll get more. They'll get right at $1 million, maybe a little over $1 million.
Okay. All right. So we're looking at about 10%, maybe a 12% buffer.
Approximately.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Okay. So even if there are some cost overruns, we do have a little bit of a buffer there for the cost overruns.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you. Appreciate the.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And-
yes.
And we need to realize that everybody keeps talking about this. If we have the money to do this project, it has to go out to bid. This is just something that you want to do beforehand. Then it goes out to bid. Then people come in and say exactly, what it's going to cost. And just to touch on something that she said, she talked about how Prairie Township in 2015, you're a realtor, you know how much it costs to build a house in 2015 compared to build a house now. It's probably up 50%. So, to build in 2015 compared to build in 2021 or 22. You were saying that they did this for $9 million, and look everything they got. And I was trying to explain that, yeah, if we would have built this in 2015, it wouldn't have cost us this much money. It's on. No. But I was just talking about the $9 million. And then on Greg's point, just to let him know, I just looked at the website, and the meeting agenda for this meeting is on the website, and it's been on Facebook too. So just touch on that. So.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, on that
Just-
point,
Mr. Eads.
our agenda was just put up today. I meant on the
the special notices, the community section, it's got its own tab. I was thinking maybe it should be there so it could be seen well.
Greg, may I speak to that?
Sure.
It's never
Yes.
on that tab. It's never been on that tab. I put it on Facebook because it has to go out, special meetings 24 hours in advance. So it went on Facebook for that. And then the agenda goes on because everyone had the legislation already. It didn't require the 2 days notice like most meetings. So everything went legally how it should go.
Okay, but can't we do better and put it on a tab where people could see it when they go on the page and not have to go look at our agenda?
It was on the council page. I think people would go to the council page if they were looking for a council
No,
meeting.
I just think the community page and the special announcements is a great place to have it.
Yeah. How hard would it be to add it to that? Since, like, say, is it as easy as adding the agenda on there?
It can be added, but yeah, it wouldn't have occurred to me to put it on there because I don't put any
Okay.
council business on the page. It's more community updates. So I'd be happy to add it if that's where you want it to be.
Okay, want to have that added to the, because that would be a good place to put it if it's listing meetings and everything. Actually, Chief Nickel is next, not Chief Eads. Well, we have Greg Eads here, we have Chief Eads, Chief Nichols, Fire, Police.
Greg and I are equal, but I do have a little more hair than Chief Eads, so he may be better looking, but I got more hair a little bit. Hey, I just wanted to reemphasize that the design phase is a phase later on. I know you've heard tonight that they did a lot of studies over a year and a half. Unless you want to design something that you don't know you're going to fund and spend that kind of money, you're way out of order to do a design now. That's what the needs assessment is for. The needs assessment gives you the estimate. They've looked at the land and site preparation as part of the needs assessment. They've looked at it. I know they as in anything you do at McDonald's, getting a hot coffee, it's a disclaimer. There's disclaimers in everything. So I would expect a disclaimer in that if there's some unusual thing. As we all know, those buildings been there longer than most of us that were built, so there's not an anticipation of any soil issues with building on that property and with the assessment. And again, with this needs assessment, since general assessment, getting an idea of where we're going with it. Not that we're building a Parks and Rec department from the ground up. We have the recreation, we need the facilities to be updated for that. And this is where you start at the cheapest price to start. And again, I know it was mentioned over years of community input, and that was designing what they wanted for the community there. What we're looking at here is at least 90 days to determine whether you want to fund the project, and you'll have plenty of time and plenty of opportunity to talk to those that are involved with the design process and also what the needs are. Probably very little input from the community on exactly specifics of a police department, unless they have architectural background that they have some oversight that we haven't seen. The architect that we've used so far has built over 40 municipal buildings over a long career. I have faith in what he's given us so far. I've worked with him in the past, did not run into issues like were suggested might happen with the surveys of the ground and things. So I just wanted to reiterate that I think you have a good plan for a needs assessment so far. No, we haven't gone through a year and a half of discussions, but you're going to have 90 days of discussions, and from where we are compared to where Prairie Township was from the ground up is totally different.
Chief, don't be offended by this part. You're the police chief. Why are you an expert at this? Now, I say that because I know you've got experience. You probably have more experience than anybody in this room. If I'm not mistaken, you helped or were involved with Marysville's police department, the process to build that. What is your experience in this? Just kind of as knowledge to tell people.
Just what I stated. This is where you start.
No, I mean, what was your experience in it before? Was it Marysville Police Department? You were involved in that?
They built a police and court facility for several million. I don't remember the exact amount right now.
Okay.
Over 20,000 square feet for just the police side of it. Or more than that now. I don't have those plans with me now, but I worked with the architectural firm from the beginning, where we went to pass a levy, worked on the levy committee. So I have that experience, have an experience with the architect and with the design of a modern functional police department. That's my experience. Was that your question?
Well, yeah, I think that people need to know that you have that experience, and you, when you walk up here and you're saying these things, that you've been there, done that at least once before.
That's correct.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right. Was Mr. Norman was next? No?
Rob was one of those.
Okay. If you could stand to the mic, yeah, because we can't hear you on the recording, sorry.
Rob Newman again. I imagine Rex, would this be a competitive or negotiated sale when you go to issue the bonds?
Did you hear that? Could you hear it?
So it will be a competitive sale opposed to negotiation, selecting an underwriter?
Yeah.
Who would be bond counsel?
No, the company.
The company or the council? We use Baird and Associates is who we use for our,
The last sale you?
yes,
What was the name again?
Baird and Associates?
Baird and Associates.
Baird,
Baird.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
I got something.
Yes, Mr. Peters?
Pat, Rex, maybe Chief Nickel. How many town hall meetings do you think you'll have before the election or the levy? Are you planning on having some town hall meetings?
Oh, definitely.
I mean, how many are you anticipating having before that?
I mean, it's really open. It wouldn't just be one or two. I mean, we're looking 5 to 10 probably minimum. I mean, we want to get, because this kind of turned into a town hall tonight in a roundabout way, but this is what we want, you know? We want more than just a couple people speaking about it. We want to bring in everyone from the community because this project is about the community. So, and we'll have 90 days to do so.
You also we'll get a committee together too, correct?
Yeah, there would be a levy committee, yeah.
Okay. And I think what I'm hearing from the community is they would like to have the town hall meetings before they would be faced with a deadline to actually vote for this. That's what I think I'm hearing, that they want to have as much discussion as they can before they would be faced with a deadline to vote on a ballot. You know, and if that's forced, it could possibly not work out in anyone's favor if that's the case. But that's what I hear the community saying, and you know, we're here for the community. All right. Yes.
I just want to touch on, Ms. Billion?
Billion.
Okay. I think the sponsorship is a great idea, and I did bring that up in the initial talks. I don't know how we could do it, but I know with like the Mount Sterling Community Center, that was pretty much completely funded by private donors. So I don't know if that also could be incorporated to help offset some of the costs that may be put into the project, where you have maybe a sponsorship wall that says, just kind of like even the Coughlin building at the fairgrounds, where you have like the big wall where it's your platinum, your golds, and your silvers. I mean, I think it's a great idea to get the Stanleys and the BSTs and all the banks and anyone that wants to put forth money. Yeah, I mean, it's endless, the money that could be provided, which could offset even, it's going to offset, if that's available, it's definitely going to offset the money that comes out of our pockets towards that project, which now would go back into our fire department and our police department. So I think that was a great idea, and I did bring that up, and I was like, because I do know the Mount Sterling with BST. BST was one of the big donors to build the Mount Sterling one, and I've already talked to BST, and they've already said they'd be willing to do it. We would just have to figure out how to do it.
Yes.
You have to work with my Uncle Buck. I feel sorry for you.
Of course.
I just I just want to ask, and I do think we do need a rec center at some point. I agree 100%. But our own, so we paid for Horn King Architects to come and do this for us, and their own study says, additionally, site layout should also be based on analysis of soil conditions, utilities, subsurface investigations were not prepared for either site. Other impacting factors may surface as the dialogue continues, and site development costs assume there are no significant utility, toxic materials, subsurface soil-bearing capacity problems, the geotechnical study and a land survey have not been prepared, and it needs to be done. They say that in their own to you. So why aren't we doing that before we put it up for a vote with the community? Because it's not a true, 25 million is not a true cost at this point. If they're telling you this is what we need.
He did it too.
Thank you, Henry.
His mic wasn't on, but he did call him Chief Eats.
Chief Nickel said earlier, it's like, you go to the doctor, they're going to give you all these disclaimers. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. They put all these disclaimers.
But I ask, when I go to the doctor and it's coming out of my pocket, I ask before, and I want to know everything before.
So do you
I'm
have
asked to
do you
pay
have
for
all
it.
the tests done that he's saying, could cause this and could cause that? You have all these extra tests done?
I
on
ask
your-
how much my insurance isn't going to pay for, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I certainly do.
That's good.
All right, thank you. All right, and we're at Mr. Hayes.
Okay. If I remember correctly, there's a 12% buffer in this. Was that correct?
My number says 7, like,
Good question for Rex.
Talking about as far as money needed for the fire department and the difference between what the debt service planned is and probably about 10% would be my guesstimation.
Okay. I don't have anything else. Anybody else have anything?
Okay, and we've amended this one already to no more than 0.25 for the fire, okay?
Right.
All right, nothing else? All right, on to Resolution 11122, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved. Second.
All right, clerk, please read the resolution.
Resolution 11122, sponsored by Rich Hayes. A resolution to place the issue of increasing the municipal income tax by 0.5% per annum for a continuing period of time as provided in ordinance number 11022 on the ballot at the election to be held on May 3rd, 2022, and directing the Board of Elections of Madison County, Ohio to conduct such election and declaring an emergency.
This is basically a resolution to place this issue of increasing the municipal income tax by 0.5% per annum for a continuing period of time as provided in ordinance 11022 on the ballot at the election to be held on May 3rd, 2022, and it directs the Board of Elections of Madison County, Ohio to conduct such election and declaring an emergency with it. So basically what it is doing, it is giving the language for the ballot, and it gives the boxes for the income tax and against the income tax. And memory serves me correctly, we amended that to 0.
No, we need to make,
We need,
to amend
we
this
need,
to
we need
match.
to fix it to mirror 110.
okay.
Because 110 has already been amended, so 11122 would need to be amended to also say fire would not receive more than 0.25
0.25
of that percentage.
Okay, I will make the motion to amend that the fire department will receive no more than 0.25%.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second, and we have discussion. This is where we've mentioned earlier, this is where I feel that these should be broken up into two separate ballot issues. And I feel that if they're not broken up into two separate ballot issues, then there should be a line-by-line item, a breakdown of where the dollars are to go, so that way it's 100% clear as to the intentions of the funds that are going to be collected, where they are going to go. The community should have 100% transparency in knowing that it's a possibility here. Some may or may not know that they are voting for more than just a police headquarters and a community center. That there's also funding for fire included in that. So, I would say that this should also be more clear to the community, so they will know exactly what they're voting on. All right, so we have a first and we have a second. All right, clerk, please take the roll call for amending.
Peters,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hitt, Stahl,
Yes.
Smith, Eads.
Yes.
Okay, so it has been amended. 11122 has been amended to state the 0.25, no more than 0.25 to the fire department. Okay.
Now, I know you had just amended that to change that number, but just clarification, the way that this is written, that 0.25% also can go to not just construction, but it is general operating expenses. Okay, I see that, I'm sorry. I thought there was a little bit of a bobble there, but we're good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. And after that, I would like anything else to come before council? All right, a motion to adjourn?
Just want to remind everybody
Oh, go ahead.
just remind everybody, February 1st, another meeting, 6:30. Council chambers.
Any roundtable?
We don't have it on the agenda this evening.
Okay.
But do you have comments you'd like to
Oh,
add?
no, I just want to thank the people that came with research, that have done some research. I appreciate the fact that you've taken the time. Mr. Newman, I appreciate your comments. You're probably the expert in the room, and I do appreciate the questions you have. I hope there's more, and I hope that your knowledge is used in going in the future by everybody that sits here and the administration also. Ms. Dillion, I appreciate the fact that you found that information. I'd really like to see that information myself. Mr. Miller, I appreciate the fact that you've tried to crunch numbers. I think it's very important that everybody, I think it's just fabulous that everybody did that and came with that tonight. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I do appreciate it as well. And I think that by the information that Mrs. Dillion brought, I think that is a really good example of what the community did to come together to come to a successful conclusion. And I'm sure, they felt like they were all a part of making that decision. And they had plenty of time, and they didn't have deadlines they had to meet. They were comfortable and able to, meet as many times as they needed to. So I think that may have been one of the things that probably helped them to become successful in their project. All right. Anything else to come before council?
I'd just like to thank everybody for coming out tonight, too. Appreciate it. Need the input. Appreciate the input. It shows that you're interested in the city. You're interested in what's going on, and it just makes the city look that much better. So thank you to all of you for coming out. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. Anything else? All right. A motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.